Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here, and welcome to the final event of Women's History Series 2017. Very excited. We're so excited and honored to be hosting Princess Nokia in conversation today. And the event is the culmination of so many months of work and weird delays and confusions. As I'm sure you all can tell, luck has not been on our side. But now it's happening and it's great. So for my co-coordinator and I, Sofia, putting together Women's History Series has really been like truly a labor of love. We're both so committed to influencing conversation on campus towards deeper thought on issues of race and gender, justice, and revolution. And we hope that this event will bring some of those ideas forth today. Our theme for Women's History Series this year is Healing for Sustainable Resilience. And under that banner, we've been attempting to kind of, as I said, kind of put forward a vision of politics that can hold space for spirituality and self-preservation. And so we hope that through this event, through your engagement with Women's History Series, in whatever capacity, you've come away with some new thoughts, some new plans for action on topics of sustainability, healing, resilience, and resistance. I want to give a really quick shout out to the Sarah Doyle Women's Center, which is our home on campus. As I'm sure many of you know, Sarah Doyle is the holding space for a lot of wonderful programming and thought on issues of gender and politics and race and justice. So come by, see the house, it's great. I have a couple of business notes. In the event of a fire alarm, please proceed calmly to a nearby exit, leave the building, and move away from the doorway. Please note that the location of nearby exits. The closest exit may not be where you entered, and be aware that the way you entered may not be the most direct way out. Sitting or standing in the aisles and doorways is not permitted, Sofia. You should. Just kidding. J-play. Smoking is also not allowed in any university building. Please turn off or silence all cell phones. We would also like to thank our very generous sponsors, the Sarah Doyle Women's Center, the Office of Institutional Diversity, the Office of the President, Office of the Provost, Office of the Dean of the College, the Division of Campus Life and Student Services, and the Undergraduate Finance Board. So now I want to introduce my wonderful co-coordinator, Sofia Robledo-Rower. She's going to be facilitating this very exciting conversation today. A little background on Sofia. Sofia Robledo-Rower is a queer white Latina Libra from New York who co-coordinated Women's History Series, all the important details. She is a junior concentrating in Africana and ethnic studies. She is co-editor-in-chief of Blue Stockings magazine and a founding member of Students Against the Prison Industrial Complex, a prison abolitionist organizing group. Sofia is a novice herbalist, a young healer, and a farmer. And I'm also so excited to introduce Nicole Frasqueri, otherwise known as Princess Nokia. Princess Nokia is an independent artist from New York City. She released her debut album 1992 in fall of 2016. She's returning from her second tour of Europe and the United States, and has been featured in Fader, Vice, Bustle, etc., and is also maybe performing tomorrow. Some of you might have heard.
I'm not a musician. I think you just have to hold it.
Hello. Hi, Brown University. How y'all doing? What a beautiful, beautiful crowd here today. Some gorgeous folks in here.
True. These are like the best folks on campus.
No, I completely believe it. Thank you for having me, by the way. I really appreciate the love and the support.
Yeah, thank y'all so much for coming out. So maybe we'll just take a deep breath and
I'm gonna
settle
take my shoes off.
Yeah. Take your shoes off, do whatever.
We all family in here, right? Well, we should be.
So I thought that we would start by, maybe I'm gonna start by asking you about your live shows, because anyone who's been to your live shows know how much you care about centering women and centering women of color specifically, and actually saying that and intentionally making that space. So I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about how important that is to you and how it has changed your shows, if it has, and in general, why you choose to do that.
Well, I think essentially when I primarily first started performing, it was a really awkward experience for me, and I didn't like it. And it was like this phase that I had where I'd rush and didn't care about myself, so I didn't care about my art, and I didn't put effort into it. And then I evolved as a person, and I evolved as an artist, and I started to take art really seriously. And I thought that my art wouldn't give something to me if I didn't give something to it. So I said, I can't just like wait till last minute to get ready, and then just like, I used to play like a lot of nightlife, like club shows, very late at night, New York rave, underground queer scene. And it was a very different spectrum and audience to which I perform to now. But when I wanted to reevaluate how I performed, I wanted to, or when I started being Princess Nokia and really like giving a lot of effort and evolution to the whole process and schism, I think that I just wanted to create a really cool, brown, radical kind of like space. You know, like that was like encompassing the hip hop energy, but had like really like nasty punk, like unapologetic energy as well, which I think comes from like the Riot Girl influence, right? And then I think that I'm an extremely emotional person. I connect to people regardless of where I am. I don't know how to be any other way completely, to be honest with you. So with that being said, I think that I'm a very big fan of science and music and all these different attributes of life, and I encompass them all together. And I believe that artists, they create spaces of energy. They create spaces of environment. You know, an artist really has the power to create an environment for its audience. And I kind of always knew, and just like how I relate to myself as my artistry is, I have a beautiful bravado about me, but I don't have like ego. So it's not like I'm like separating myself from my audience. It's a room of love. They come to see me. So how dare I act like I'm better than them, or that they should want to hear me perform? No, it's not like that at all. I think that I'm very conscientious of the audience and the young souls that are in the audience. And they're beautiful, and I like to look at them, and it's like hard not to. It's hard not to look at someone in their face. So I think that creating these safe spaces, I just wanted to like create a safe space where it was like fun and happy and joyful and safe. Because I have been to places in my youth where things weren't safe and they weren't inclusive. And it really pissed me off. And I think that's why I started rapping and performing in the first place. So I just wanted to create spaces of love that were like not fake, they were real love. They were really based on love. And that's kind of where it is. That's kind of where it comes from.
Mm-hmm. So in the Fader documentary, you talk about going to a place of fantasy. And I was wondering if you could say a little bit more about the relationship between that space of fantasy and maybe the space that you try to create when you're on stage, or how you think about a space of fantasy.
Well, I think that music is like my primary escapism, right? Mm-hmm. And I've used music as a tool to deal with so much trauma or pain in my life. And it's the healthiest, most wonderful, most gratifying escapism I've ever had. And that is a place of fantasy. Escapisms in some facet are fantasy. My music is a fantasy for me. As you know, I've done, before 1992, I did Metallic Butterfly, I did Honeysuckle. Those are experimental albums that have like no correlation to what I do now. And they were like schisms of fantasy where like I cosplayed. I'm a nerd at the same time. So like, you know what I mean? So when I say like, I go home to a place of fantasy outside my own, I've always been a loner. I've always been an awkward kid who daydreamed a lot. You know, I'm like a clairvoyant. I'm like, my head is in the clouds. I can't pay attention to a lot of things. I fantasize a lot. And I'm okay with that. I know that about myself. It's healthy. It isn't very negative. So I think that with fantasy, whether it's like my fantasy with like daydreaming, or my fantasies with like the comic book world and like superheroes and like cartoons and anime and comics and all that fun stuff, I have a very innocent spirit. So when I do have like pain or trauma, my escapisms are always with fantasy. I'm always like reading like little girl like princess books and like wearing like a unicorn onesie and like sucking on a pacifier, like some really odd out the world shit. But like that's my fantasy, and that's where I go to make myself feel happy. And it's okay because it's healthy. It ain't, you know, I'm not like self-deprecating. I've been there before. So now my adulthood, my evolution, I like healthy fantasies.
So kind of going off of that, what is your personal relationship to Princess Nokia then? How do you think about the relationship between Destiny and Princess Nokia?
I think that essentially both are the same. You know, like it's definitely so much the same. But with Princess Nokia, I think like I kind of take it from like the place where I came up with the name. And Princess Nokia, like a couple years ago, I was like in this really different, interesting paradox where I had like become a viral sensation, like very lowly, and I like avoided all this like label stuff, but I had been like across seas in Europe already, and like I was just this like person in the music world, but I was still like, I remember like I was broke. I've been emancipated since I was 16. I bought my own laptop. I didn't have anything. Like I lived with my dad, but I had to, you know, provide for myself. I didn't have Wi-Fi in my home. I didn't have a laptop for a long time, and I didn't have a cell phone. I would always be at the library getting Wi-Fi or being on the computer. Most of the business transactions, touring, a lot of stuff I did in the early days, I was at the library doing that. I had an Obama phone, like government Obama phone. And I remember being in high school, my later, like 19, 20 years old, I went back to high school, I had dropped out. I was Wavy Spice at high school, like Princess Nokia, or I don't know, I don't remember actually. I think I was just Wavy Spice. However, I was just doing all this cool shit off this little phone. And I think like it takes a lot of balls to admit that, number one. And number two, it takes a lot of balls to be able to be so resourceful with so little. And I have just encompassed, like, I'm like a gutsy little resourceful kid, you know? And that's just me, and like, that's Princess Nokia, and that's where it came from. But Princess Nokia has evolved into something so much more. But it's very, very much me. It's not like my stage name, or like, I'm two different people on and off stage. Nah. Nah. The only thing is that I don't really call myself Nokia. Like, I've realized that, like, that's your name. Like, people call you that, so you should, like, refer to yourself that as more. But, like, I'm always like, yes, hi, I'm Destiny. Like, nice to meet you. I think that's just because I like my name a lot. And it's just because I never called myself Nokia. It was never a thing like, hi, I'm Nokia. Like, hi. Hey, it's Nokia. Like, or like, I was like, we're only calling me Nokia now. No, I don't think I ever did. No. It's just a cool name. It'd be funny though, because remember that thing that Nicki Minaj did against Remy Ma? She was like, I'm the iPhone, you the Nokia. And I was like, that's me. I was like, definitely the lower grade. And that's okay with me. The Nokia got snake on it, so come on. It got the game Pong, too, so I'd rather go with the Nokia. I'm the baby fat Nokia, too.
So I'm from New York, and so I'm really interested how you said that you found Princess Nokia when you moved to the Lower East Side, and so I'm wondering what about the Lower East Side, or what in the Lower East Side really changed you in that way, or gave you that creative jump?
Well, I'm originally from the Lower East Side and Harlem. My dad is from. Thank you. My dad is from the Lower East Side. My mom is from Harlem. I always lived in the Lower East Side. I moved permanently to the Lower East Side when I left foster care. I was very sheltered. I wasn't allowed to do nothing, really have friends or go out the way teenagers can do when they're in high school, but I was still pretty wild. I just was like, oh, I wish I could show you this picture I just showed them of me in high school. It was like me drinking a 40 naked in a bathtub. But when I got to the Lower East Side, I got to live with my dad, and I had ultimate freedom. I started really going to raves, really going to parties, really working in the art world and the fashion world and just being downtown. And if you're familiar with that schism of New York downtown, anything happens. Anything can happen in New York minute. You go to a party, you meet this person, you end up somewhere. It's synchronicity of the art world scene. It's you know how Madonna has all those pictures of her and Basquiat, and it's real casual. That's very New York downtown, and that's very much what I experienced when I moved there. I just would be in the middle of the street, just in the thick of it. Real beautiful New York kind of moment, and I just got to be free. Just got to be free, man, and I just got to really engross myself in the arts, in that art world, and be around other art people. I went to a parochial school that was corporate work study. I wasn't allowed to be myself. I had to wear slacks and collar shirt every day. I had to conform. I got sent home for wearing a skirt that was at my knee. A lot of things like that that just really stifled my creativity. So when I went to the Lower East Side, I really did become Princess Nokia, essentially. I just became that underworld, for my first album, I referred to it as this graphic novel of this Princess Nokia was this high school girl that was a nerdy, awkward high school girl by day, and a singer and nightlife person, go-go dancer by night. I was a go-go dancer, used to hit all the, I was everywhere, you know what I mean? Everywhere. And that was it. And in the graphic novel sense, that's what Princess Nokia did. She went to school, didn't really talk to nobody, smoked a lot of weed. And then at night, I would wear orange hair and wigs and it was eccentric as fuck. And I think I got to be myself and got to be free, and then I got to see the hustle between the art world and the music world and the art, and me and what I could do with it. That's when I pushed myself further.
Mm-hmm. I used to also go to weird parties when I was a teenager in New York, and it was weird. And
very much.
It took to be a teenager too, seriously underage, seriously queer. It took a lot of toughness to go into those spaces where either you were pretending to be older or you were hey, hi, And so I was wondering
Relatable.
about. I know you've talked about being torn between feelings of docility and also feelings of power and toughness. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that and maybe how that played out in going to those parties, but also now and how that's changed.
Well, I think as a young kid, I was really into going to parties because I just loved to go dancing. I'm a raver, like real old school raver before EDM. And I think that was my get down. I just wanted to have a beer, have a couple drinks and just let go. And I think I lived in a really abusive home for many years. And every chance I could let go or be somewhere else, I would. And that was the beauty of my adolescence, is that I just let my freak flag fly, and anywhere I could go find fun, I would. And that was really beautiful, and the spaces were cool, they were interesting. It was the New York rave, kind of underground warehouse scene. Very interesting part of my life. I don't remember a lot of it, honestly. I used to drink a lot, and I don't want to laugh at that because I don't drink anymore. And I don't disregard drinking. Drinking's cool, but I just don't drink anymore. I used to do it too much. My memories are weird, But it was great, and it was beautiful, and it was kinetic. Like, I remember having spiritual experiences of those lasers hitting me and hearing the drop in the music and voguing and shuffling and raving and just, and like, I went on no drugs either, really. I was just like moved like by a high of being by myself for the first time. And like all the things I used to fantasize about at 12, 13 years old, read about in the Village Voice, look at online, look at in movies and shows, like I was like living it. I was like, oh my God, I'm doing this. Like, I wanted to do this, and like I got out, and I'm doing it, and like that feeling of like, it's like the Waiting for Tonight video. It's like, it's like beautiful, gorgeous. Essentially, when I became 19, 20 years old, I started to embark on a spiritual shift within my own personal individual self. I could no longer attend parties the way I used to, actually. I became really sensitive to the energies around me. And I'd realized that my essentially my energy and my intentions, or whatever I was about or feeling, was very different from everyone around me. And it was very apparent. And then I realized that I started becoming really anxious and nervous at parties, and I started realizing how people saw me, and it maybe wasn't the most positive thing. And the shadiness just wasn't worth it. It wasn't at all. And it just wasn't fun for me anymore. And I had to take and then I kind of like looked back on my life and was like, all right, I'm gonna retract from this, and I'm gonna just focus on me and my art and kind of things that I was starting to be into at the time. Started to be really into hiking and praying, and that kind of took over my party life. And it's funny because I think about like, oh my God, I used to really be up in there. And then my life just changed, and then I'm grateful for both. I wouldn't trade it for the world. It was the funnest time of my life. No, this is my funnest time of my life. But it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I'm very lucky too, because I used to walk around a lot by myself at odd hours of the night, a little girl in no clothes. I gotta be honest with you, that's not advisable. I would say, don't do that. That was not cool. But I had guardians all around,
Yeah, I'm really curious about like your relationship when you're performing energetically with the crowd, and like where do you feel the spirits in that, if you do feel the spirits in that, and how do you negotiate those energies and that, like, being able to identify that energetic feeling when you're performing?
I think that more than anything, I'm moved by God, and my definition of God may be different from other folks. My definition of God is the highest supreme feeling of beauty and light and happiness from up there. It's not no man with no beard. Ain't nobody trying to smite me down. It's light. It's light, and that's all it is. And I know it very well. And when I'm in stage, it's a wave of feeling. I can feel it. I can sense it. I can breathe it. And I can see it in the people's faces. And it's back and forth. And it's exchanged. And it's kinetic. And that's what I feel more than anything. Ain't really no spirits. It's good spirits, if anything, but it's godliness, it's happiness, it's uniqueness. And I've had like severe pneumonia and a long series of anomalies of medical. Like, I've been like almost deathly like gonna die. And then I've gone on stage and completely have shifted my entire physicality because I am so moved to perform and put on a good show and have a good time that I've completely healed myself. And the whole show, I didn't break no breath. I didn't break a sweat. I didn't cough. As soon as I got off stage, I was sick as fuck. However, it's just beautiful, I think that like, it's like the energy, and it's the what's that called? The EpiPen that gives you adrenaline. Oh. The adrenaline. That's such a rush, and it's a positive rush. And it's like me, and I throw the punk energy into it. I'm jumping up and down and acting a whole bunch of fools, and I can't look like, I've done the best I can with my appearance today, yes. But like, I won't look like this by the end of the stage. I don't know how women do it. Like, I'm like still trying to figure it out. Because I go on stage and at the end of the show, I look like a wet mop. And that's cool. That's great. I was jumping around and sweating and crying and rapping, and like my makeup is like all the way off. Like, you know, and it's cool because it's worth it. Like I'm just jumping around and like just getting so live and crazy, and it's just so amazing. I can't like be demure and walk around and just be like, who that is, ho? You know, like, I don't know, it ain't my style. So my style is to be really, I'm just so quirky and fun, and I'm just like headbanging and humping speakers and I used to do a big split on stage. Like I used to bust it open. I don't do it anymore because I literally injured my knee so many times and it just wasn't cool and it wasn't fun anymore. But I used to like bust it open on stage. Like I just like, it's like the opportunity to be whatever you want to do, to be nasty and wild and messy and free. And that's the whole reason why I love like bringing punk energy to hip hop, or like breaking down those taboos that you have to have like 1,000 fucking people on stage with you. Like I show up by myself. That's all I need, me. It's cool. I don't need a whole bunch of people. I don't need an entourage. I don't need like a hype person. I'm all of that together, you know? And it's dope, you know? And I think that's what's different, with what I wanted to bring to Princess Nokia and what I facilitate. I've toured many countries now, many shows. I've seen it all. 3 weeks after my first album, I had an entire sold-out tour. Like, that's numbers that no underground artist does, you know? And that's love. And I just am like, we're gonna have some fun. You know?
Tomorrow's gonna be fun.
lot of beauty in it.
So you've spoken a couple times about like getting a lot of almost power from isolation and going into yourself. Can you kind of like talk a little bit more about that and how you kind of figured that out? Because I'm sure like something I know I struggle with, and I'm sure like lots of folks here struggle with as well.
Listen, young bloods. I always knew I spent a lot of time alone because I was different and I was weird and I was very unique. And a lot of people didn't understand me. So I was forced to spend a lot of time alone. I was forced to spend a lot of time at home alone because I wasn't allowed to have friends or play dates. All up in here with a lot of love, though, thankfully. Thankfully, I didn't become a dog person. I think that I'd always spent my life alone in some facet or another. I was familiar with it. But when I began studying spiritual discipline, you learn that solitude, spiritual solitude, is a huge component in self-evolution. And when you want to evolve, or you are evolving, regardless if you want to or not, like someone like myself, who is developing clairvoyant abilities by the age of 20, because that's my genetic disposition as a Caribbean person, just comes to you. It comes to you, and you have to accept it. And you could denounce it if you want. It's gonna be a hard life after that, though. You're gonna be at odds with yourself. So I started, you know, understanding, studying, reading. It came to the point where it says in many books, many esoteric spiritual books, that it's gonna come to a point where you're not gonna relate to people anymore. People are not going to relate to you. And the things that you used to share your time with, or anything, whether it be the parties, girl, the men I was with, the friends I used to be friends with, they didn't relate to it no more. So it was a time where I had to have solitude and force myself into solitude because I wasn't trying to play myself. If something wasn't right for me, I couldn't force myself in it. My body was rejecting it, my mind was rejecting it, my spirit was rejecting it. So I had to be alone. And then I accepted it. And I was like, okay, this is what comes with it. It's a gift and a curse. In order to advance as a spiritual person or a clairvoyant person, the Caribbean witch that I am, I have to accept these things that come with it. And solitude is one of them. And that's okay with me. Better than being average and mediocre.
Can you talk a little bit about being a Caribbean witch and maybe what Afro-Latinidad means to you?
Yes, very much so. So my identity is very multifaceted, but it's very deep-rooted in the genetics of my country and my family. And I am an Afro-Indigenous woman. I'm Puerto Rican, which means I'm triple-raced. I'm black, I'm white, and I'm Native American. And I'm mostly black and white. And a lot of Puerto Ricans don't like to admit that to themselves. Some do and some don't, whatever. I don't want to get into that schism of colorism and self-hatred within the Caribbean countries because of colonization. However, as a mixed person, I'm very, very honest with myself. How do I look? What do I look like? What my skin color, my hair, my mother, my family? Where do our customs come from, our traditions? I look at my family personally. Santeria, Regla de Ocha, and the Yoruban religion has been in my family for centuries. It's just passed on, baby. And I can't deny that. And it's a very special part of my identity because it's a powerful part of my identity. It's all that I know, and it's all that my mother left me with when she died. People don't realize that. My mother left me orishas before she died. So my connection to my blackness is very powerful and strong, and I'm very proudful. And at the same time, I'm very aware of my privilege as a light-skinned woman. But at the same time, I'm not going to deny that I'm black. There's a lot of Puerto Ricans that do. I look black. Come on. Just think about that. So when it comes to the schism of accepting blackness, I grew up in a really Afrocentric home. I grew up with dark women around me. My mother's dark. So I think that those are just things that come natural to me. With the schism of a mixed person, I think, yes, I'm mixed, and I try to honor each part of my identity equally. But the Afro-Latino part in me is so huge, and it's played such a role in my identity and upbringing that it's kind of like all I know sometimes, you know? And the identity of being a mixed person is really hard. Being a Caribbean person is really hard. Being a magical person is really hard. But I'm very intellectually stimulated by bringing all those truths and those large parts of my family together because they give me strength. And as Queen Afua said, she said, if you don't know the people that bore you, you'll never know yourself. And I think that's very important because in my quest of understanding my womanhood, I just wanted to connect to my ancestors and my family and the spirituality that I am bred from. That's one of the largest parts of my upbringing and my genetic upkeeping. So as an Afro-Latina witch, I think that I realized many years ago, like, because I introduced the concept of me being a witch, like in Metallic Butterfly, when I did Corazon in Africa and when I did Young Girls. Mm-hmm. And I think that when I wanted to start making art of substance, because I'm not really fond of the art that I first made, like Bitch I'm Posh and Vicky Gotti and Versace Hottie. That's cool, but I'm not proud of that. That's not art. But I started to make when I started really evolving as a woman. Because when I started making music, I wasn't evolved. I was a little teenage girl with a stick up my ass, with a big ass ego, who thought the world owed me something. And I looked different, and I looked more Eurocentric. I looked real, like, you know, whatever. And then I started finding myself. And I started realizing a lot of things. And I realized that I'm a woman of substance. I'm a woman of magic. I'm a woman of like a lot of beauty that comes from a really core place in my country and in my family. And it was becoming so apparent. It was not something that I could hide for the life of me. And it was something that I thought was so beautiful in my self-discovery. I had to share with the world. Because to me, it was the most beautiful part I'd ever discovered about myself. When I found God, when I found out that I was really a witch, man, it changed my life. And I no longer hated myself anymore or did drugs or, you know, whatever. I was like, wow, my eyes are open, the veil is lifted. I come from a mother who has born me out of magic. It's intense and it's powerful. That's who I really am. And I like the girl I used to be, but this is really who I am. And I had to start checking myself. And when it comes to Afro-Latinidad, I know there's a lot of intersections that are complicated and difficult. I can't apologize for being mixed. But what I can do is try to erase the demonization of blackness within my country and then within our culture. Because everybody is okay with being Taino, but nobody wants to be black. You know, and for me, like I even got friends. I even got people from my tribe that I grew up with since I was 4 years old look down at me for wearing yawo, coming into a powwow in all white with coyotes on, real black. And that's okay. That's up to them. I have known that we have an obligation to our ancestors. And that's where I really stayed with it. And that's why I'm so adamant on my culture and explaining why I am so proud of being Afro-Latina. But I don't identify as Afro-Latina. I identify more so as Afro-Indigenous because I am a Taino woman. I am Native American. I'm Afro-Indigenous. And yeah, very white too. And I'm cool with that too. And I'm proud of that too. Because I'm not just Spanish. I'm Irish and Italian as well. And I've tried to find beauty in my whiteness as well. And it's funny because if I go to Spain, people look at me funny, be like, "You're not Spanish?" They like, it's a weird placement. No matter where I go, I'm rebutted back. So it's fuck it. Like, I'm here. and that's the best that you could try to do, I think. And you know, when it comes to like my sisters, my indigenous sisters, or my sisters, I'm trying to be on both planes with them, but I'm trying to do it respectfully, and I'm trying to do it by checking my privilege, and I'm trying to do it with respect, but I'm also trying not to hide myself because I'm mixed. You know, it's an interesting field, but I think I try to play it as well as I can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was such a beautiful answer. Thank you so
Thank
much. I was also wondering if you could talk a little bit about the spiritual or like different religions that were around you growing up, and how you like negotiated all of that.
I grew up so liberal. It's like so cliche and corny. It's really like a moment. Okay, so I grew up in New York City. New York City's pretty diverse, pretty liberal. My family is a very eccentric fucking family, and I've had I live with different people. So my family was primarily Catholic. I baptized in church, went to church all my life. Well, no. Went to church up until the age of 15, because that's when I left and didn't want to go back to church. From a big portion of my childhood, my father was actually a devout Muslim. My father had turned to Islam for therapy when my mother died. My father found Islam in prison, and him and his best friend had converted to Islam and became devout Muslims. My father used to go by the name of Alamin. When I was a child, my father prayed 5 times a day on his mat. My father read the Quran. My father and I would wear matching kufis because my grandma would have had a heart attack if he tried to put a hijab on me. So, and it's a funny thing because people are like, what? And I'm like, yeah, there's a lot of Puerto Rican Muslims in New York, actually. It's like, I grew up with them. I knew this woman named Fatima. Her daughter was Rabia and Davina. They was like Puerto Rican chicks, and they was Muslim. And I grew up with them, and like, it's just like a thing. I don't know. Like, it's just, that's what it was. But my dad was devout Muslim till I was about the age of 7 or 8. And then my father, when my father had not denounced Islam, but had just like took a step back from it, my father then became a santero, a very devout santero. And the mother of my sister had brought him into the religion. So they were a santero couple, and my sister was even born out of magic. So that was like around me a lot, but it was never put onto me. It was just familiar. You know, seeing my parents in all white, and having altars in the house, and I would smoke my dad's cigars when I was little because I was a weird kid. So I was just like mad. I don't know. I was like always just trying to smoke, and I remember like, you know, boom. That was a big part of my life, and just my I attended a Hebrew Jewish camp at the 92nd Street Y for 10 years. So Judaism was a big part of my life. And as well as my grandma, she wasn't cool with her family. She was a very interesting woman. My grandmother had schemed the art world in New York, and she had acquired these really wealthy Jewish friends who became, that's a real fact. My brother was a violinist, and there was a lot of movies that were done about his violin program and himself. My grandma weaseled her way. She became best friends with the director, the producer, and the funder. That's a true story. Every weekend, I will be at the Kaplan house, or the Shoya house, or the Miller house, you know, with a lot of Jewish people, like my aunties and uncles, kind of, like extended, we would call the extended family. They were Jewish, so I had a lot of Judaism around me, just like, wasn't like, I can pray in Hebrew. It was so around me that much, and I thought it was it's a beautiful faith, like, it really is. And I had so many Jewish friends. My first boyfriend was Jewish. I could sing a moti, like, that was cool. Grew up Catholic, went to Catholic school, boom. Santeria, big part of my family. My grandma was a santera. My maternal grandmother, my mother's mother. So big part of my life. It came back to me in my adulthood. It came full circle. When my mother passed away, my mother was a magical woman. My mother and my grandmother and many relatives that I had later found out were practitioners, magical women. My mother, before I realized this or knew even the Orisha Yemoya, I have a tattoo of a mermaid on my thigh and my hip. I've had it since I was 16 years old. Before my mother died, she made a book for me about a mermaid named Destiny. Excuse me, I'm about to get emotional. My mother made a book about a mermaid named Destiny, and before my mother died, she made my entire room mermaids. Everything was mermaids. I don't know what it was with this woman and mermaids. No Tweety Bird, no Winnie the Pooh. The things that I associate most vividly with my mother were mermaids. And I loved mermaids and aquatic nautical life all my life. That's why I call myself wavy. And then when I came into the religion and met my godmother and a medium who explained to me my family's history, because that's very possible. People can explain to you your family history. Spirits can come, your eguns can come, your relatives can come. It all came forward. Like, this was all planned out from before you was even born. And I said, oh, okay, that makes sense. Not weird to me. And those were like the religions, you know, based around in my life, like kind of all around the board. And I kind of had I'm lucky though, I'm real privileged to have had so much openness within like culture around me, because a lot of people don't have that at all. And, you know, I was able to like, went to camp with Jewish kids, went to school with like Muslim kids, you know. It was a very unique upbringing. I'm grateful for it because I have love for everything. I've never been closed-minded a day in my life, you know, and I understand religion really well. I studied religion in Catholic school, like many religions. I know theology really well. I'm not a religious person. I'm a very spiritual person. But yeah, religion is just kind of all around the board. I've had so many different kinds of friends and family members, and I'm grateful. Honest to God, I'm grateful for that, because I know how hard it is to grow up secular. I know how hard it is to grow up Orthodox. I know how hard it is to grow up sheltered from other cultures or be sheltered by your culture. So I grace to God, that was my funny, cool upbringing.
So in the opening to Brujas, you have like a prayer to Yemeya. And I was wondering what role the Orishas play in your creative process, and how is your song making? How is your song making in relation to the Orishas also?
Well, I have a very, very singular relationship with my Orisha that is very different from a lot of people who intersection with those West African religions in the Caribbean, right? My relationship is not even deep-rooted in the religion. It's deep-rooted in a really, really genetic kind of sense. It has to do with my mother, it has to do with a singular Orisha, Yemoya, the mother of the ocean. I was left without a mother. It all correlates to me, my womanhood, who I am as a woman, everything. So when I made that song, I wanted to honor her. I made the video as an ebo. That's the offering that you give to receive the ashe. And my relationship to Yemaya is a very motherly, loving one. I don't involve myself in the religion or ocha houses because I'm magical as it is. I don't need to be in amongst other people in, you know, experiences like that. My relationship to this Orisha is so maternal that that's all she asks of me, to honor her with love as a mother or a daughter would. And that's what I give to her. And that's what she says. She says, that's enough. She says, don't do your initiations yet. Don't go to a ocha house yet. Don't get crowned yet. She says, what you do for me is enough. You love and you revere me so much. You keep me in your home. You keep me in mind when you make your art. That's okay. Your intention is pure. You don't use me for other gain. You use me because you just want my companionship. That's beautiful. That's ashe right there. So I'm filled with ashe as it is because her love is so strong, because she is the mother that has guided me my entire life. And that's why I made that video, because that was really my relationship, like with the ocean. Every time I go to the ocean, I'm moved to the point of tears. Who feels like that? Anybody the age of 23. Nobody has that mental capacity to be like, this is my mother speaking to me. This is my ancestors speaking to me. These are the mysteries of our people that have been hidden for many, many years. So I'm just like, this is as honest I can be. I don't try to overexert it. I don't put it onto people. It's my thing, not yours. If you like it, you can identify with it. Beautiful. And if you can appreciate it, great. It's done with good taste. It's done with my identity. Because there's some people that don't agree with that video, and some people from the ocha houses that were like, this is a bit much, you're cursing in the video. But trust me, if I would have done something wrong, I would know. So she loved it. She knows who I am. I revered her. That was it.
That was so beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
So you've talked a little bit about the importance of femininity, and I mean, Yemaya is like the mother. And so I wanted to know if you could talk a little bit about masculinity and holding masculinity and like tomboyness. We talked a little bit about this earlier, but
we did. I was really happy I could bring up masculinity because it's such a big part of my life, my identity, who I am, my work, my art, my very attitude. Like, I have so much masculine energy. It like, I got more chin hairs than a Baptist church lady. I swear to God.
That's real.
And I've always been extremely masculine identifying and androgynous from the very edges of my childhood. And was always very gay, very queer, loved making out with girls, saying like, let's play doctor. And I just like, you know, and my grandmother, it was unfortunate. This is maybe a little sad, but my grandmother really, really didn't like to exonify my beauty, unfortunately. None of the women I lived with wanted to exonify my beauty. They tried to hide my beauty. They cut my hair short. They made me wear like fake, like name brand clothes, like things that people would just get made fun of in school or takes away. Like, I remember I had hair down to my ass. My grandmother cut my hair for no reason. My hair's never been the same. I was marked as a child. My beauty was stripped from me, like my crown, you know what I mean? And I just wasn't allowed to be pretty. Like, nobody did my hair before I went to school. I was like left to be like, I looked really rugged, really ragged. And I just adapted it. I became okay with it. And I was like, cool. But my identity as an attitude was very like rough and like really gutsy and full of moxie and full of like bull, like, my dick is out. You know, like that was just me. Like, I've always been that type of person Always identified it as a kid, always knew I was extremely queer, always just knew that, like, I think that more than anything, there's this savantness with androgynous people that, like, the alpha female does not exist in you, and that don't exist in me. Like, I'm an alpha female, but I'm not a queen bee. And I realized that really, really, like, early. That I didn't have this necessity to be dominant over other women or feel insecure, or I just was like, I felt like a dude. I was like, oh, she's so pretty, and like, she makes me nervous, and like, she's acting fucking crazy. I gotta bounce. You know what I mean? Like, I just was like, you know, like I always had like gentlemanness to me. Always had masculine energy, like very gentleman-like, you know, very like, hold the door for a girl, you know, like, you know, like, very, I was also brought up with impeccable, like, Southern manners, so my foster mother. So, like, just, like, very, like, conscientious of, like, women and, like, I don't know. And then as I became, like, a teenager, just was, like, really about being as gay as possible. Because, like, when I was young, that was, like, taboo and odd and still very considered weird. I went to school in the early millennium. So when I went to school, it was like, for me, that was like amazing. Like, I wanted to make people uncomfortable by my queerness. I wanted people to talk shit about me, because I was like, y'all whack, y'all boring, y'all basic, and I'm queer, and I'm a raver, and these are my gay bracelets. I used to wear like candy up to my wrists. And I used to have like people just like, I don't know, I used to be a bit exaggerative, but it was just like how I wanted to express myself and how I wanted to be and how I wanted people to remember me. I wanted people to remember me as that weird gay kid. And I just like was a theater kid, I was a drama kid. I was like every gay cliche you could imagine. You know, I started the LGBT coalition in my Catholic school my freshman year of high school. You know what I mean? Like, that was just it. I was just like down, I was with the shits from jump. You know, and I am a queer woman. I've dated women, I've dated men. And I just like love my masculinity. And what I did with 1992 and Tomboy, it was like, I began to realize that the men in my life loved me for my unconventional body. I remember it was the men, because I was insecure about my body, that it was unwomanlike. And because I'm a brown Caribbean woman, you see the measurements on our women? They're crazy. Y'all some gorgeous, buxom women. Holy shit, I don't look like that. So I was always really insecure. I didn't feel like, you know, fab. Like, I didn't feel like that, like, popping, like, you know, my ass, I had no ass and titties. Boom. But, I wanted to get surgery. It was a thing I played with for a long time. I was always trying to get my ass done, trying to save up money, get my titties done. And then one time, this man in my life told me, you know how much money you would make at a strip club? And I said, what? And we went into this conversation. And he was like, you don't know this, but he said, like, big buxom women come a dime a dozen, but your body type is very rare and very singular, it's unique. He said that would make the most money at, like, this was like a man who was into sex work. He was like, your body would make the most money. And I was like, really? And he was like, yeah, like, it's exotic. And I was like, I'm exotic? And I was like, and then I started to realize, I was like, holy shit, I am exotic. This is like some other shit. And like, I don't have no titties. I got basically all areola, right? It's just like a big brown patch. It's a button. It's a pepperoni. Damn. And that's what somebody called me in 5th grade. My best friend, Sage, who wasn't my best friend for like a good 6 years, but we became friends again. I'm learning to forgive and let go. She said I had pepperoni nipples. It scarred me for life. Yes. Oh my God. She grabbed my My Chemical Romance pin off my bag and she was like, it looked like this. And I was like, oh my fucking God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh, I'm blushing because it was so.
I'm like, shit.
And then years later, I turned that and I was like, no, this is beautiful. This is like sexy. This is like fetishy. Like, this is like, ay, Dios mío. You know, I thought this was like, you know? And then I was like, and then I started realizing that all the men in my life really liked it. Like, liked my body type. Like, liked my, also, another just thing I wanted to dismantle. With my little titties, my fat belly. Yes, I know I'm not big. I'm very slim. Okay, this is where it come from. The fat belly part. I've been allergic to most food all my life and didn't know it. I had a large gluten allergy, vegan, like big allergy to food. I also used to be quite thick back in the day. I've lost 25 pounds. I used to be quite thicker, I used to be chunky. And I lost 25 pounds, boom. But I've had an indigestion problem, really severe indigestion problem that would indulge my stomach to the point where I looked about 5 months pregnant. I've had it many times. It used to happen more often when I would eat food, any type of like bad food or it's crazy. My stomach would engorge, and I have passed at the airport, stores, movie theaters for being pregnant. I've gotten away with a lot of shit looking pregnant. I used to scam high school, get on the elevator, anything. I always looked pregnant a lot. I used to look pregnant a lot. I used to have a small frame and look pregnant a lot. And that was my fat belly. And I had a boyfriend one time be like, oh, I love your little titties and your fat belly. And I would be like, and I remember I wrote a poem on Thanksgiving Day because you know those bodycon dresses at Rainbow that like, they're not for people like me. They for video girls, they for the girls on Instagram, they're not for people like me. So I was wearing this dress. It was all like, you know them dresses. And my stomach was so big, and also it's like, I know my body proportion. I'm not ashamed of it, but let's be real, like, my stomach exceeds my breasts. Like, I look like the Grinch. It's funny, it's cool. I'm aware of that. It's cool, I'm open about it. I'm not trying to put myself down. That's how my body type looked. So it was like a little fat belly with little titties. It was always bigger. Like, come on, like, nobody really has that type of body frame. So people don't have small breasts like I do. This is very rare. So it just is, you know, like, I'm a double A. That's smaller than an A cup. So I just got a big back though. But so I just like the masculinity of my body type and bringing that to tomboy. I wrote a poem on Thanksgiving Day where it was like, with my little titties and my fat belly, I could tell your man if you finna let me. And that was the poem I wrote. And then I remember writing music a couple months later, and I was like, that poem was fat. And I just remember writing on my thing like that, and it was just like, I came up with a song that really glorified where I'd come to about my love for myself. And then around like a year ago, I was 23, 24, come to a good point in my life where I just loved everything about myself, so unapologetically, so much, so maybe too much, you know? And I just like, that was the masculinity in it, the tomboyness. Like, I can get like, I like expressing my femininity because it's rare for me. When you see me on like Instagram or anything like that, when I got that weave on and I'm looking glossy, and that's not an everyday thing for me. So I savor that because that's the femininity that I've always searched for in my life that I can't do normally. It comes to certain women naturally, or it's the disposition of all they know. All I ever knew was being a messy kid. All I ever knew was wearing baggy clothes. All I ever knew was being dirty. So I'm a skater. I'm a soccer player. I ride bike. I hike, you know? So when I have the opportunity, it's like interesting when I can tap into my femininity, I'm like, this is like so spiritual and it's like unique because it's not natural for me. So I like to play with that. And I think as like a gay theater kid who likes to play with all these realms of like identity, it's like, today I'm giving femme. Today I'm giving femme realness. Today I'm giving you like girl that Drake flew in to Mexico. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, the lips is plump and the like it's glossy and porn and it's sexy. And I'm like, this is so interesting. This is like me, but it's not me, but it's me. And I like to play with that. I like to play with femininity. Like right now, I'm masculine, got my afro,
Got my regular clothes. I don't give a fuck. This is me too. This is my masculine energy. Comfortable. You know, unbothered. And I play with it. I like to play with it back and forth. And it's a spectrum. And gender is a spectrum. Sexuality is a spectrum. We all know that. So on that spectrum, I can go from the pH scale, from 7 to 1. And depending on how I feel that day is what I want to give. And I think that's okay. Like, that's a part of the art. That's a part of, like, where I want to be in hip-hop. It's okay not to look sexy all the time. And that's, like, really hard because we're in this world of, like, looking to look perfect. And that's all I've ever wanted to do is bring that, like, balls to the wall cojones. I don't give a fuck. I can be either or. I can be both. That's androgynous. That's two-spirited. That's my gayness. That's how I seep it into hip-hop. And that's where I really, you know, I don't have no agenda. It's just what I do.
So I thought we got this really wonderful question submitted that I'm just going to read because I didn't remember.
Let me know if I'm talking too much.
No, you're literally here to talk too much.
No,
Talk.
because sometimes I just talk, and it's like, I'll be like, Destiny, shut the fuck up. Thank you, Bill.
We started a little late.
Thank you, Bill.
So this was a really beautiful question, so I'm just going to read it. And it says, your politics on urban feminism means so much to me. However, as a genderqueer, low-income Puerto Rican person from the hood in Chicago, I can sometimes feel like my gender identity will never be as synchronized as my other two. I would like to ask, how are genderqueer, non-binary, femme, and trans folks included in your politics on urban feminism? Is there a place for us in the Afro-Latinx communities? And if so, how do you work towards that?
Can I see that real quick?
Yeah, it's the top one. It's a long, good question.
Well, check this out. Everybody and anything is included in my politics. But I don't have politics, I have principles. And when I done Smart Girl Club for 3-4 years, that was the motto. I've said this many times in my radio show. This is about principles and not politics. And that's why I'm very careful with the gray areas that I go into and why I'm not so adamant on politics, because sometimes I can't back them up. But my principles have clear intentions and they have clear accuracy from where I see things. So with the sense of urban feminism applies to anybody who is an urban feminist identifying person. You don't have to be a identifying woman to be a feminist. And you don't have, and urban people come in many different races. Urban feminism was something for poor, black, brown, yellow, red girls, and that can be a spectrum of any type, to identify with because they didn't maybe agree or identify or have accessibility to mainstream white feminism. And that's why I coined urban feminism, because yeah, I liked Riot Girl, yeah, I like Bikini Kill, yeah, I like, you know, like I knew about like different like parts of the women's liberation movement, from suffrage to burning bras to equality pay to, you know, like the 90s fourth wave. But feminism really comes from like the existence of resistance, the strength that comes from inequality and unfairness and oppression. So for the sister right here, I think that she always has a place in urban feminism, because that's what urban feminism is for. It's for the women that never could fit into any other box. It's for the brown women that have no have no binary. I don't have no binary either. Yes, I'm on some spectrum. I'm more subdued, and maybe my identities are my labels. But with that being said, I think that if she is a genderqueer, non-binary person, why would she be excluded from the Afro-Latina community? I just don't see that. How is that possible? Is it from the machismo or the taboo-ness in it, or the traditionalism? Perhaps. That don't got to do with me, though. You know what I mean? So I think that in my podcast, what I've always done with urban feminism and Smart Girl Club, I always said, this is a safe space for everyone. And that was, because I didn't want to get too particular with, intersections, and I didn't want to step on nobody's toes or be like, have my foot in my mouth or excluding anybody. I just said from off the back, Smart Girl Club and what I did with urban feminism is for everybody. It's not about politics, it's about the principles. And that's where I stand on it, continuously so. Everyone and anyone, no matter the identity or the binary or the intersection, is truly, truly, truly identifiable in my scope, because my scope is about the emotion of the heart and what is right, and not what's like right on paper.
And I think this is going to be our last question because it's not? Okay. I thought you were saying two questions. Oh, okay, we're chilling then. Okay, good, because I was curious, like, why the aversion from politics in that case? Like, could you get into that a little bit? Because at least on this campus, politics are like a lot of things.
Because I'm undereducated in politics, and I don't want to fake the funk. And that's why I say that. I'm undereducated in politics, and I don't like to involve myself in them because they have dark spaces that I do not want to touch. And those are for my own personal reasons. So with that being said, I know that limits me and my knowledge, and that may be a poor answer, but it's an honest answer. I don't involve myself in politics because they're extremely intricate and complicated, and they're always demised to oppress. And politics are really, really intricate and complicated. And I'm just too fucking lazy for all of that shit. But what I do have in my heart is intellectual value and humanistic compassion. And that's why I teeter the lines of politics. Because people say, oh, your music's very political. And I go like, no, it's not. Like, you ain't never heard me talk about no politics. My music is very principle-driven, very culturally driven, very core driven. Feminism, I don't consider that politics. I consider feminism a birthright, a way of life, a lifestyle, a way for women to uplift themselves and heal themselves and understand the truth about oppression through history. I don't think that, and yes, some people can say, yes, feminism is a big part of politics, and you're right, but that is your understanding and your knowledge. That's their knowledge. My knowledge comes from a really, really humanitarian, spiritual, compassionate component. And that's why I don't involve myself in politics. I just don't have the mindset for it. And that's cool. I know who I am. I know what I'm about. And I say it first, so I never have to fake the funk after that. That's what it is.
I appreciate the honesty.
Thank you.
Kind of switching gears, I'm really curious, since you do have such a grueling schedule, like you literally just got back from Europe, and I'm wondering what, if any, are your rituals of self-care, and how do you keep yourself whole and healthy doing so much shit?
Well, okay, so the keys on self-love, self-help, is that you have to commit to it. And I read this really wonderful book that I'm still rereading. It's called Sacred Woman by Queen Afua. She's a wonderful, wonderful African-American herbalist, humanitarian, contributor to the Kemetic philosophic, community that wanted to raise the vibration of holisticness and health in the Black community in the last 25 years. I read her book. She says that in order to change your life or to prolong a healthy life or a sacred life, you have to commit to health first. If you don't, then you don't have anything. So health is a really big part of my life. It was something that I began to change and evolve when I became 20, and I just couldn't eat processed food no more, couldn't drink alcohol no more, couldn't sniff cocaine no more. It just was everything bad. And I said, okay, I gotta adapt to holisticness. 5 years later, navigating the tools of my lifestyle, I am an old soul. So I'm not like a stubborn kid who's like, I'm gonna party all night. And I'm like, talk all night and like run myself dry. Like, no. I knew from a very early age, and when I wanted to develop my career, that where I want to be in life, I don't want to be no internet artist. I want to be an iconic force. Many, many, many accolades and accomplishments of excellence under my belt. How does one progress to that? They have to have a very, very secular lifestyle. They have to make very, very sensitive choices in every aspect of their life. They have to sacrifice a lot. I've sacrificed a lot of being a young kid, being a normal kid, being a normal person, being mundane, being lazy. I'm naturally very lazy. Very, very, like, I don't want to be bothered with nothing. I want to smoke weed, watch Totally Spies all day. However, when Beyonce released the Beyonce album, my life changed. And I said, this woman created an iconic album where no one knew it, and she just like made this like 17 like song visual album. I thought I saw that merit of work, and I said, I want to amount to that one day. I want to, whatever she has, I was like, what's a 24-hour day in Beyonce life? What hour does she wake up? What does she do to accentuate herself? What is she taking on every day? Like, what is in this woman's schedule? I said, I want to amount to that. I want to be on some sort of plane like that. You can't be no regular person and be a superstar at the same time. I ain't no, like, and I'm not average. So I started sacrificing a lot of things. You know, I eat really well. I eat really clean. I have to force myself to eat really clean. I'm forcing myself to even alkalize my diet even more now because I have to. I try to get really, really sufficient, good sleep, no matter, you know, unfortunately I can't hang out with people after my concerts. I have to go right back to my hotel, not speak to nobody, be by myself. I have to, you know, holistic stuff. What am I consuming into my body? Has to be godliness, has to be goodness. I gotta take time with myself, take time with my health. I spend a lot of time in solitude. Every morning I pray for an hour fully. Those are not things that young people primarily go to first in their day-to-days. That's what I have to go to. In order to be able to travel as much as I do, and then what I did with 1992, like I put out 6 videos in 1 year. I put out an album. I did a lot, you know. I pushed myself constantly. I was like, with every opportunity of time and energy, I'm going to utilize this with the productivity of a genius. I'm not a genius, but I want to be. I want to emulate genius. I don't want to hold myself back anymore. I'm lazy. I procrastinate. I do a bunch of these things. I ain't never gonna be nowhere where I want to be unless I kick myself in the ass and really commit to this healthy lifestyle, this productive, hard-working, hard-living lifestyle. And with self-love, I have to reiterate every morning, like, yeah, we learn about self-love, we learn about positivity, we learn about affirmation. It can sound corny, it can sound cliche, but every morning, I truly look to the sky and tell myself, I am a beautiful, beautiful woman. I am capable. I am limitless. I am infinite. I am magical. I am powerful. I am ascending. I have to tell myself that every day, because if I don't, I take NyQuil every day. I'm like, I am a Gemini duality like you would never believe. One side of me is like skateboard, scumbag, stoner, a lot of terribly sociopathic tendencies. Other side of me, productive, highly genius, you know, spiritually Afrocentric, beautiful, like force of nature. I gotta let go of this girl right here. I'm still letting her go. In order to love myself, I have to make myself love myself. have to take time with myself, pray with myself. I love, like, my self-love comes from whenever I have the time, I'm spoiling myself as much as possible. I wake up in the morning. I love to take my vitamins. Ooh, girl. I'm like, yes, Destiny, take your vitamins, girl. Love this sacredness. Love what you're bringing into your body. Everything has to be, and it's positive, and it's sweet, and it's joyful, and it's like colorful. So it's like there's sacredness in everything you do. That's self-love. When I wake up, I pray, like my herbs, you know, wear my all white, you know, do my sound bowl. I get so much joy out of those little moments with myself that are so holy and so special and so, they're just so innocent, so sacred. I get a lot out of that. It's my self-love. I'm like doing things that most people my age won't do or don't know how to do. But I know how to do them, and I'm teaching them to myself. And I know that's the key to living well and being healthy. So that's self-love. And the fact that I'm practicing it is self-love. And the fact that I'm trying to reiterate it even when I don't want to, because sometimes I don't, and I'm very honest with that. I still do it anyway. That's my little self-love. Make a nice, healthy, clean, you know, make a nice little smoothie bowl for myself, a little nice, healthy omelet. I'm like, I fill my body with love. You know, cooking is magic. How you prepare your food is magic. The love you put into your food. I don't rush to make my food. I put on, you know, my little South Side, my little, you know, the Reuben songs I listen to, my little paño, my all white, and I'm like little kitchen witch. And I'm like, catch the spirit. And that's self-love, because that's the truest part of me. That's me. I've been many things. I've been many people. But that's the woman I like the most. That's the woman I like the most. That's the woman that is the healthiest. That is the woman that loves herself the most. And I know that now. So my self-love comes from those little routines, those consistency, those vibrational instances of sheer selfishness and love. Selfish people live longer. Remember that. And I got to be selfish with myself. So yes, I practice. So with, you know, traveling and taking on albums, working on a TV I can't talk about yet show, you know, being a motivational speaker at the same time. Like, it's a lot of things, but I want to be those things. I don't want to be a typical 24-year-old. And I love typical 24-year-olds, but that's not me. I want to be fabulous. I want to be like Russell Simmons, you know? I want to be like, I just want to have so many things of accomplishment. I didn't get to finish high school. I can't go to college. I don't have the mental capacity to do class yet. I tried it. I have been envious of people who have sought and completed higher education their whole lives and have those more secular lifestyles and day-to-days. All my life I knew that I couldn't do that I couldn't sit in the office, that I couldn't get along with people, that I have a short attention span, that I'm going to get fired. All I ever did was get fired from every place I worked. I had to find a way where I could make it work for me. And now where I made it work for me, I want to do it all. Because I'm not just a rapper, I'm an artist. And I'm not just an artist, like, I'm about to, like, I have a column with Elle Magazine now. I'm a writer, I started in journalism. Those things still matter to me. I want to work on my photography book. I used to be a photographer in New York, big photographer. All those parts of me, I don't want to denounce. I want to include them in my art and include them in my vocation that brings me to higher places. I want to direct movies. I want to act. I want to write children's books. There's so much in my life I want to do and that I'm trying to do that exceeds what a little internet artist is supposed to be. And I'm going to do it, goddammit. I swear to God. Thank you.
I think this is a good place to end. Thank you so much for coming.
I just want to say these moments are really humbling to me, and I get really emotional. And they're just so humbling to me that my self-discovery is shared, and and appreciated by my brothers and sisters, younger or older than me. So I thank you for taking the time and respecting me as a peer, respecting me as an artist, respecting me as a woman, accepting me, loving me, supporting me. I don't come here with ego at all. I come here and I think, is this my life? Is this truly my life? I am just like you. I am brown, poor, oppressed kid from whatever the walks of life I came from. Yo, life is short. Make the best of it as you can. And love yourself, goddammit, because you was made to live in a world that tell you not to love yourself. So loving yourself is the most revolutionary thing you could do because it facilitates so much happiness within your path. It took me a long time to learn that. But in these spaces, I want to share that with y'all. That loving yourself, having joy for no reason, that's the goal. Fuck anything else. Those are the real hashtag goals. I appreciate you for respecting my art, respecting my journey, respecting me as a person. I really do. The applause, that's God giving me that. Truly, and I am in so much gratitude and appreciation. And yes, for all of you beautiful brown folk at Brown University. I am proud of you. I could only imagine how much. I just hope you're proud of yourselves, because this is something else. Institutions like this, they take a lot of courage. They take a lot of commitment. They take a lot of strength. It takes a lot to wake up in the morning, to keep going, to do them tests, to be in spaces that some people are just like, you like, yeah, oh my God, what am I doing here? I know how college is. I know how university institutions are. Y'all the real ones. I get to have fun. You work hard. I work hard too, but you really work hard. So I commend you, and I thank you for sharing this space with me.